KSR's Jack Pilgrim here with Stephen Peake at Stegeman Coliseum here in Athens, Georgia for, unfortunately, another loss for the Kentucky Wildcats. It is 75-68 and a must-win battle for the Wildcats in terms of postseason resume and seeding. Now, Stephen, I don't know if that's something that we even have to worry about. This was an opportunity for Kentucky to come in, kind of right the ship after that loss, very disappointing loss where the wheels kind of fell off late there against Arkansas, an opportunity to kind of right the ship and get things right. Second half, and then the wheels fall off once again for the Cats, unable to pull off the comeback effort. And now here we are. Stephen, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was sitting right here, Kentucky's bench right here to our left. Energy on the bench has just not been there really all season, but again, we saw that today. Even when there were big baskets that the team that Kentucky made, the bench really wasn't into it like we've seen in years past. I don't know, man. This was a long road trip to watch Kentucky really not play well again. I kept saying all year that I would die on the hill. This is a good team, but I don't know. Are they just not? Is this just not a very good team?
And that's the concern, because I don't think it necessarily even had anything to do with the talent, because I think if you just look from a pure talent perspective, a pure skill perspective, a dominant perspective, I think Kentucky had the Jimmies and Joes, but they just didn't have the fight. It was another performance where the Kentucky comes out sluggish, and you liked how they responded to open the second half. They take a 4-point lead with 12 minutes to go. You think, all right, they threw out the ugliness that happened to start the game exactly the way they did it at Rupp Arena back in January. You feel good. It was a feel-good moment. And then Kentucky scores 6 points down to the 121 mark from the 12-minute mark down to the 121 mark. How does that happen? How can you go 11 minutes without scoring?
Well, Georgia, actually, Kentucky held them to 6 points, I think, through the first 10 minutes of the second half, and able to play their way back in the game. I didn't realize that they only scored 6 points. You said 6 points from the 12-minute mark to the 1 minute mark.
So they tied it up with 13:51 to go.
Yeah.
Took a 4-point lead with 12 to go, and then they scored just 2 points in the next 6+ minutes to let Georgia go back up 5, and then 6 total in that stretch down to the 121 mark.
Cal mentioned that Reeves played too many minutes, but there wasn't really anything you were going to be able to do about that with CJ and Severe both being out. And you probably saw his legs probably making a difference there in the second half, that he didn't quite have the same energy that he had in the first half, and missed some of those shots that he was making, because he was on fire in the first half. He was single-handedly carrying the team.
15 in the first half.
Yeah, and but obviously you're missing 2 guards today. That is, you would like to think with those 2 guys on the court, you probably win. But man, help me out. Is there not enough talent? There was not enough talent on Kentucky's roster today to figure? Damian Collins had a pretty bad game today, and that really sucks, because we were watching him take steps forward, and I don't know, would he have 4 fouls or something in just a few minutes of play?
Yeah, and the injuries, that's the topic of conversation going into it. CJ Frederick suffers a cracked rib against Florida. That is something that will be managed based on pain and how he's able to do that. He's going to try to fight through it, but this was just too quick of a turnaround. He tried against Arkansas, did not go the way he was hoping. And then Xavier Wheeler turns his ankle on Monday, is unfortunately forced to miss the Arkansas matchup on Tuesday. And then I'd heard that he'd practice, or at least was hoping to give it a go in the last couple of days. That obviously did not work out in Kentucky's favor. He sits out again, leaving Cason Wallace as a lead guard, Adu Thiero as the secondary option there as the primary ball handler, and then Antonio Reeves is kind of the spot up, clean up guy, kind of mop up duties if necessary as the lead guard and initiator. But you also need to kind of understand that Georgia was shorthanded a little bit too. Terry Roberts came in. He was a game time decision. He was one of their best players, or arguably their best player. He comes in banged up. He plays only 22 minutes. So Georgia also had that excuse as well. Yeah. But it was not even about the personnel. It wasn't about the Jimmies and Joes and the talent. And it's getting beat backdoor twice in a row to open the game. It's falling asleep on defense. It's little mini lapses here and there. It's Oscar Sheboy missing bunnies at the rim, and guys just missing point blank shots and things like that. It's just like the focus and the engagement is not there. And that was what was so frustrating listening to Cal, listening to the players talk after the game. Yeah, there's still talk about more opportunities, and there's more tough matchups coming up here and there, and an upcoming matchup against a quad one foe in Mississippi State and Starkville on Wednesday. And that sounds all great in, just the idea of it sounds great. But what about this team, Steven, makes you think they can go into Starkville and win that game? Like, they have done nothing to prove that they're capable of doing that.
Yeah, and hearing them say, like, well, we just got to start winning some games. We got to start winning some games. What's today's date? It's February 11th. Like, I mean, you have how many games left?
There's six regular
season games. So you have 7 games. I mean, you're you're basically out of time. I mean, I don't want to say this solidifies Kentucky, not being in the tournament. Let's just say that is the case. You cover the team, you cover recruiting. Just like for fans, like where's the reason to be optimistic? Maybe not even just about these next 6 games, but this is the worst stretch of Kentucky basketball probably since I think 06, 07, 08, 09, that 4-year stretch. But in that 4-year stretch, they also got 2 tournament wins. I mean, Kentucky is like irrelevant in the college basketball landscape. I mean, it's kind of crazy. And you look across college basketball, North Carolina, Duke, Kentucky, like the Blue Bloods are just absent from conversation. And it's strange, but I never thought that it would happen under John Calipari. I never thought that we would get to this point under John Calipari, this many seasons consecutively. And last year was a great season, but that's the worst tournament loss in Kentucky basketball history. I'm exhausted talking about it.
On the heels of the worst regular season in Kentucky basketball history. And it's the sum of all parts that is leading to this. And
maybe the biggest disappointment in Kentucky basketball history would be this season.
Because of the expectations going in and the opportunity to right the ship and to kind of rewrite that story. That you look at recruiting, you look at and everybody's turning to the next season, and the recruiting class. We came from Atlanta to go see Rob Dillingham, future Kentucky Wildcat. He played really rough start and finished very strong, but everybody's kind of looking at that as kind of the thing that we're the piece of meat we're hanging in front of us while we're running
away from this season.
Running blindly away from this season toward next. And it's great to think about in big picture, but that's also a poor recruiting class all around in terms of just quality talent, and not all recruiting classes are created equally. So you have the best player at every position, and it is 4 top 10 recruits, and Reed being a top 25, top 30, depending on what recruiting service you're looking at as well. That's not something that we should be just kind of throwing this season off to the side to look ahead to the next season. I would not be looking ahead to that as your saving grace as to what the current state of affairs in Kentucky basketball.
I think that fans probably need to temper expectations about next season just a little bit. I think they'll be good. I mean, that's going to be a good team. And the thing too is Cal's going to have the guys that he wants. He's going to have the athletes that can do what this team can't, and that's what's frustrating. I'm not one of those people that are saying, "Hey, just go zone and that'll fix all your problems." But hey, how about like switching up defenses? Because clearly these guys aren't good enough to stay in front of anybody.
This was, again, straight line drives to the basket for easy buckets. Now here we are. We are 6 games remaining in the regular season.
Percentage chance they make the tournament. What would you say?
I mean, it's 35%.
There's been worse years, but this stretch, these last 3 seasons, it's kind of sucked to be a Kentucky basketball fan. And you never say that. It's just we haven't been the fun school this is not the same vibe. The Calipari 3-minute press conferences is not the same vibe as the Calipari who would do a 3-minute segment where he just talked for 3 minutes, and then that's question 1, and then he took several more. This is not the same guy.
4 minutes and 36 seconds for John Calipari today in his post-game presser.
And it's such I know we have to end this soon, but as a fan, Jack, I mean, I know you've covered the team on a professional, in a professional standpoint, but just as a fan, this was a loss that probably, unless you go on a winning streak, probably is the last nail in the coffin for your NCAA tournament hopes of, unless you're going to play in the
realistic, there is a magic run there for the taking.
Sure.
But realistic, based on the sample size that we have of how the season has gone, where things are right now, and where they're trending, this was the nail in the coffin.
Right now, fans feel like it's the nail in the coffin. They feel like this is the end of that. This is the end of the season, and so to have the head coach only talking for 4 minutes and 36 seconds, when this means a lot to a lot of people. This is the pride of Kentucky. This is what people, I'm from Kentucky. We beat you at basketball. That's what we do. That's the one thing I get to, have pride in. We get to have a collective pride in as Kentuckians, and we haven't had that in a little bit, and it sucks. I hate it for Kentucky fans, and selfishly I hate it for myself because we have to continue going to these games.
Yeah, I was so depressed and down in Missouri, in Columbia, leaving Missouri. I'm just I remember the thumbnail of that stupid video and how depressed and deflated we looked. And it's like, at that point there was so much season left to go, and here we are, 6 games left in the regular season, still having the same questions and no answers to be found.
At least the drive is a little bit more fun than the one to Missouri. So we get to go through it. We get to go through Atlanta and Nashville again on the way back. So at least we have that to look forward to.
Very unfortunate. That wraps up today's rapid reaction. Hopefully we have some good news to share on Wednesday following Kentucky's trip to Starkville. We're well past the point of must wins, but yet another must win for the Kentucky Wildcats. There we go.